Are you constantly stuck, always chasing perfection only to fall short? Yeah, me too. But what if I told you that the key to our success is not perfection, but in fact, embracing our messiness? What if I told you that? Well, that's what we're going to get into. So thanks for stopping by. Like I said, welcome back, guys. But today I want to get into Warren here, by the way. But today I want to get into talking about that messy middle, the times when things just don't go right. Everything seems wrong no matter what it is that we're getting into. If it's a personal project, if it's personal growth, a creative project, or anything really in life. The times when, like I like to say, life gets a vote, a monkey wrench is thrown into your plans right in the middle, because there are a lot of us talking about the beginning, right? How to get started, how to get out of fear and anxiety and vulnerability. And then there is the end, right? Either chasing it or have a solid, good, productive, healthy plan to get there. But not a lot of people talk about that messy middle, the sleepless nights where you're questioning your realities, where you're wondering if what you chose to do was even worth getting after. The times when you missed picking up the kids from soccer practice or dropping them off, or you missed answering an email. And I mean, you name it, right? It runs the gamut of the things that is in the middle, that messy middle. And I want to talk about that because in our chase for perfection, we forget to embrace, like I said in the open, that messy middle. But in this episode, I just wanted us to shift our perspectives, help you shift your perspective and get after it with a little bit more ease than you've probably been doing, right? The beating yourself up, because that comes with the middle. And the thing about the middle is that so many of us set unrealistic goals, right? The That's part of the trap. These unrealistic goals where they're lofty, and we're it's part of the culture because we're told to do that, right? We're told to dream big. We're told to get after it, that the sky's the limit and all of that good jazz. But we set these lofty goals, and then the problem is we never get after them, right? We never truly start the process to where we can say there is even a middle for us, and is it time to bail on ourselves or not? So many of us think we need to have everything figured out before we even get started, before we even get to the progress, because we want everything to be perfect. We want the lighting to be perfect. We want the sound to be perfect out of the gates, usually also not knowing much about that thing, in particular, in this example, making videos. And we set these unrealistic expectations and then wonder why our anxiety levels are through the roof. And of course, our anxiety goes through the roof because of those unrealistic expectations. When they don't come to fruition, we basically lose our shit, right? We give up on ourselves. We start to question, like I said, our realities in the middle of the night because we are so enamored by our own lofty expectation. Yeah, if we get started at all, we get paralyzed. Or before we got started, we were so paralyzed by fear and then we set these lofty expectations, and when they don't materialize, like I said, we lose our shit. And then that, like they say, when it rains, it pours, right? So when we do that, one of the next things that I find that happens is that, and it kind of ties in really, is that we procrastinate, right? Or we just abandon stuff when things get messy, right? We just give up altogether on ourselves. And it's easy to do. That's why I want to. That's why I call it the perfection. This piece, the perfection trap, because it is a trap. It's easy to fall into. It's easy to talk ourselves out of anything, just as much as how hard it was to talk ourselves into it. Right? I guess it's like I like to say, it's the human condition, because what's the alternative, right? I mean, you never know if you never ask the question. In this case, if you never pull the trigger and do that thing, right? You will never know. But you set these expectations. And again, it's part of the perfection trap is the comparison trap. It's because you see someone else doing this thing and they're doing it so well, and you just start beating yourself up before you're already catastrophizing in your own head before anything even goes wrong, if anything is even going to go wrong. And I'll, I understand. I get it. I'll share a personal story with you. I like messing around with sea glass, the real sea glass, the ones you walk the beach and pick up yourself. Anyway, and then I like to doodle and make art out of it. And I was working on these three pieces, and for the life of me, I wanted them to look like pictures I had seen online. This was my first time out of the gates. And I wanted them to look so much like what I saw online, or pretty close, that I kept. And this, if you've worked with it, you know what I'm getting at. This, once you glue the thing in place, it's in place unless you remove the glue. Anyway, long story short, what should have taken me probably conservatively 3 months with effort, good effort, took me almost 2 years to complete. So I get it, right? I understand. It's real. It's a thing. It's why I'm talking about it, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. And look, there is something to be said about things being perfect too. I mean, because you can ask the question, why not? If you can, why not? Right? So there's that argument to be made. But in the context of real life, right? With real timelines and real things happening, a lot of first world problems, you don't have the time, because that's another thing. Perfection, I think personally, takes time, right? And however much time, based on what that thing is, again, because perfection is relative. But I mean, this video is in part about radical exception, and not so much about giving up, but just understanding that there is this messy middle that we have to embrace, because it's part of the journey. It's about welcoming all the present moments and their imperfections. And the Japanese have a saying for this, wabi sabi, and they believe in it. They don't really look at things as imperfect, because again, perfection is in the eye of the beholder, as is beauty, right? And also it's relative. So even a shattered bowl, taking the time, being in the present, going through that tedious process of putting it back together is perfection in and of itself. In you, in believing that you can take these tiny little pieces, right, of our first world problems, because most of our problems, if you're watching this, are probably first world problems, right? They're problems, but they're first world problems. And they take these tiny little bits, just as we can take all these little tiny first world problems, and with time and patience, right? And a little love of ourselves without going overboard, and be that egoist. But we take these tiny bits and we put them back together slowly, each piece not being the same as the last piece, just like your first world problem yesterday is not going to be your first world problem tomorrow, hopefully, because you're going to work on fixing that, hopefully, right? But they believe in this, the process of this moment now, failing, right? When you put the piece together and it doesn't glue right and you think you're moving on and you're two pieces ahead and it falls apart. Remember, I talked about throwing in the towel, right? That's the messy middle. That's the temptation to give up on yourself, right? And I know I'm making it sound like this thing that is easy to do. And I'm under no pretense that it is. I know it's not. I will share another anecdote with you later, but I'm under no pretense, none at all. And the kind of acceptance that I'm talking about differs, like I mentioned earlier, from, let's say, resignation, right? Bob Marley said, everything in life has its purpose. It's up to us to find its reason. And I think that speaks to the acceptance that I'm talking about, right? Everything that you're going to go through, and Albert Camus, I think, would agree, everything you're going to go through is going to come with an obstacle attached of some kind, right? You have to, as absurd as life is, constantly dealing with these boulders, right? As problematic and as troublesome as that is what we have to do every day. And within those obstacles, find purpose, find reason. And I just think, again, sounds so easy to do. So easy to do. I understand. I truly understand that it sounds easy to do. But with practice, it's achievable, right? With practice, it's achievable. I'll share another story with you. When I was thinking about even writing my first book, much less two books, I went through all of the questions I talked about in the beginning. Just who do I think or thought that I was? Who was going to read it? Worse yet, I even went lofty. I told you, I've been there with you. I went lofty. I thought, I'm going to reach out to well named publishers with my manuscript. And, if I bombard enough of them, one of them will pick it up. And at first I did. At first I did. And I did get some responses, not favorable ones, but I did. The messy middle, right? And it pushed me back into that. Like, there you go. Told you. What did you think was going to happen? No one knows your name, right? And you don't have that kind of money to pay an agent. So there's so many things in the messy middle that will attempt to hinder you from starting. And like I said, proudly, humbly, but proudly, two books. And I went through the process with the first one, and I did it even with the second because they're not bestsellers by any stretch of the imagination, and I wouldn't tell you tales out of school like they like to say about their progress, but they're doing well. They're doing well, and that's well enough for me, right? Expectations, because I did not go into them necessarily with lofty expectations in terms of results. I just thought that someone wanted to hear what I had to say. And being turned down didn't mean people didn't want to hear what I have to say. A lot of the responses I got was just that wasn't the genre they were seeking. And it's fine, but that is the messy middle. It will mess with your mind. It will mess with your mind. It will trip you up. It will derail you. But I'm here to tell you that there are ways around it. There are ways around it. And one of the ways I've been talking about it now since we started our conversation, and that is shifting your focus, right? But specifically shifting your focus from the end result to the process, right? That way you can be in the now, like we talked about, and you can be present and you can deal with issues as they arise, not, like I said, catastrophizing in our own minds and forecasting problems. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, let those failures, setbacks, and trip ups be lessons, right? They can be lessons. Oftentimes, though, we don't make them lessons, we make them catastrophes. And woe, it's me. And the messy middle matters, right? The messy middle matters. We need to go through that because I think at the end of the day, then we learn to embrace the results when they are favorable, and we're more inclined to, again, through learning, not to make the same mistakes, right? I didn't go through some of the same catastrophizing that I went through with the first book, with the second, some, but not all. And I talked, I talked about just being gentle with ourselves, right? You know, treat ourselves like we would a friend, right? You know, forgive ourselves and just be gentle. And I know, especially guys, us guys, when you hear that, it's like, oh, warm and fuzzy. I can't do that, man. It's okay. Be gentle with yourself. It often doesn't mean what you think. It just means just telling yourself it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to trip up because as long as you stay in the fight, that gladiator in the arena, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But it's not what it sounds like at all. I have friends who are just, they cringe when they hear stuff like that. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, man. I'll share another story with you, and it's not so much a setback. Well, it was at the time. It really was. I'm not going to let them off the hook. The way I entered the military was due to a setback in a job I had. I'd started a small restaurant business with a family friend. I was their head chef and was a nice little fine dining restaurant in a nice historic part of town. I won't say where, and the state. Just leave that out. But we were supposed to talk about um, compensation going forward every 3 months. And it just got to a point where it was always, you know, things are not what they seem. And the way the restaurant was set up, I could see very well from the restaurant into the or from the actual kitchen into the rest of the restaurant. It was just one of those nice historic type long countered bars and yeah, break just one of those places, right? So I could see and so I told the friend, my boss, if the next time we talk it's going to be um an explanation of how things are going financially, I'm going to fold my apron up and I'm going to walk out of here because I'm not buying it, right? I just feel like I'm being taken advantage of because of the whole friend attachment. I don't think he bought it because we had the conversation and he said the same thing. So I folded up my apron and on my way to my car, I had to pass the Army recruiter's office. And the rest, as they say, is history. And for me, blessed, humbled, and honored. It's been a really, really good ride, both in uniform and since, because of walking into the recruiter's office, right? So setbacks can lead to major for me, right? It's not the same for everybody. I get that. But you can just take a chance on yourself and see that unexpected growth and just watch it take off and blow your own mind with it. But to get to that, you have to take a chance on yourself. And you say, Warren, how do I do that, right? How do I get after that? And there are some ways you can get after that. And I've said a few so far, but one of them, number one, is probably celebrate your small wins. Every single one of them, right? If it was, and oh, by the way, guys, if you're still with me at this point, I appreciate it. I know your time is precious and spending time with me and giving me a listening ear doesn't go unnoticed, clearly. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you. But number one is just celebrating your small wins, every single one of them. Let's say you wanted to run a 3K, a 5K, and because of prior injuries or just never having done it because of whatever the reasons, and you did your homework, you trained, you talked to your doctors, you ate right, and you did the thing, right? Not in some Olympic time, but you did it, right? Don't go, well, I could have at mile so and so. Celebrate the fact that you started and you finished, okay? The middle was the learning, okay? That's for you. That's for you and for your friends because it's one of the things I want to share with you. Share your middles and your process with trusted friends and community like this, right? You build one and your viewers start trusting you or you start trusting me because you believe in what I'm saying because I give you examples. We've lived it, right? We're sharing lived life stories. So you can share it with a community that's trusted, be it loved ones, um, friends here on the internet, of course, all safety factors included, and and share the middle with them, right? But the middle is really, it's kind of like the whole shifting to a stoic kind of mindset, finding you and living more in tune with nature and your own nature. It's not for everyone. When you start doing that, it's not for everyone. It's for you, right? So the middle is for you, but you can share it. And the one I've been saying more so than all the others is some self compassion, man. Really, just give yourself a break, cut yourself some slack. All right. I mean, I'll use analogies. In If you beat an ambush, if you're a soldier, service member, you beat an ambush, you know the celebration if you beat an ambush, right? It's the same for you out there, right? If you made it through your day and you know there are a lot of Karens at the cooler and the boss was just a bear and you made it through the day and made it home sane and you didn't explode, it's a win, man. That's your ambush that you navigated and made it through. Celebrate it. Often we just think all our wins are these grand, big victories. I wanted to save this much by X amount of years, and I did it. Kudos, absolute kudos. But the middle, the little small ones, right? The ones, the 3K, the 5K, the making it home without snapping in traffic, the getting to your kids' practice, even though you could have taken those 4 hours because you really needed them. It's just been a rough month. There's been a lot on your plate. You could have skipped making dinner, but you did it. And the kids appreciate it because you could have stopped at one of the fast food joints, but they wanted spaghetti and you made spaghetti and you looked at your kids at the table or wherever they ate and you were pleased. Small wins. And in their aggregate, all our small wins become big ones. Last but not least, man, set flexible goals, right? Life gets a vote. We like to be so rigid, which is why I said that a radical shift, a radical change isn't giving up or giving in. It's just a shift, right? Just change, just allow our goals to shift and evolve because like I said, life gets a vote, right? Too often we just make these rigid goals. They have to be in a certain timeline. They have to be, certain amount in the bank at a certain amount of years. I want to retire at a certain time, and that's good. And you want to write a book, but you want to write it tomorrow and it needs to be perfect. Come on, you get the idea, right? All of those are doable with realistic timelines and expectations. Anything is. And I do a little bit of cringing when I say anything is possible because it is, but there's so many nuances to that, right? And I don't want to get and drift off into that. But you can shoot for the stars. You can shoot for the stars. You can dream big. But the messy middle, those times when life gets a vote and you get pushback from the universe, just be gentle with yourself, right? At the end of the day, our radical acceptance of the messy middle, I think, will help us overall in our pursuit of whatever growth, goals, expectations, aspirations, right? But just be gentle with yourself and set realistic goals and enjoy the messy middle. Enjoy the ride. It's part of getting to the destination, right? And interestingly enough, it's the longest part. So what's your hurry? Just enjoy the ride. And until our next conversation, you be good out there. Take care of yourselves and we'll talk again soon. We'll see you.